So what you have in front of you is the 546 South Ave. The first sheet is the elevations for what the board had approved. The second page is the changes that ZBA approved. Essentially, the height of the building has been lowered by 3 feet. The width of the building as it faces South Ave has been narrowed by 3 feet as well.
Where's the site plan that the zoning board of appeals approved?
Right here. So then what you have in that reduced copy is what the planning board site plan approval was. What the ZBA required was that actually the pool is rotated so it is more linear rather than horizontal. There was a bulkhead that was on the side that's moved around back, and there was pool equipment and AC condensers that were, instead of being on the side, those were moved to the back, so that basically this setback line, nothing is intruding right off the back.
What they had originally, this isn't the one that we approved. The original line went back here. This L was actually...
Right, so what they did was, this is the same as what the board approved, planning board approved.
Which was on the setback line.
This encroached in the setback. Here, they were 3 feet over. So that here, the setback line is now basically the edge of that house. But our plan had them 3 feet over the setback line.
Well, because that was where the original house wall was.
Right.
And what we were told in the review was that the zoning board of appeals policy was that if a house is encroaching in the setback already, that became the new setback line. That's what we were told.
Yeah.
That's not, but that turns out not to be the case.
Now it looks like it's not the case, that they want...
How did we hear that? Who did we hear that from?
So that's what I had told...
I mean, this is sort of unusual.
I had told the board, based on feedback that I got from their staff as well as the building inspector.
How many staff did they have?
One.
Okay.
So you were given the wrong information, which then
because also
made over to us.
right. So then
This doesn't
what
sound
the
right.
ZBA? Well, I mean, it depends on how you view it, because
Yeah.
and in some ways I think it makes it sound better now that if what was previously a stated policy now has changed, that the ZBA wants things conforming.
No, we were given the wrong information, and we based our decision on wrong information.
Right.
That's a
And
problem.
that came from the staff of the zoning board of appeals? You got this information from the staff? So does that mean we can no longer trust that source of information?
No, I don't view that at all.
So how do we wear
Because I
suspenders
think
and a belt
this
next
basic-
time around? Because this, I think, is really embarrassing, personally.
We actually allowed something in a setback that the zoning board of appeals overruled us on.
That's their
We thought
program.
we thought we were going by their policy. That's what we were told, David.
Because actually, I remember this as we were going round and around at the sidewalk.
Right.
This is that little narrow sidewalk,
Yes,
and this is where all those fir trees were, and it was like, are you serious?
That's right.
That's the new line now?
Right.
This is what we do now?
We
That's
had that
weird. I
discussion.
thought that was, I remember the discussion and thinking, okay, what do I know?
Well,
So
because
how do we prevent this sort of thing from happening?
we have to develop a joint policy with respect to these non-conforming lots with the zoning board of appeals. We just have to. We're going to start running into this.
Well, I mean, one of the things is that in their decision, they basically permit this encroachment into the setback area because they identify the this property, which is the
Pope John 23rd.
right, as sort of being unique, and therefore this is not detrimental to increase in. If this was a residential property, I mean, the question would be, would they just say, you know what, you got to stick everything in? That's sort of an unknown right now, is that because of this unique property, because it's a building way back here, that this is basically treed, they didn't view this as...
This is very interesting, because now you're saying that there are many, many factors to be considered, so that the next time we come up with a non-conforming lot, we don't do anything until we've talked to the ZBA, because
That's it.
they're gonna say to us, oh, no, well, you got St. Julius on this side, so that's
Well, we
okay.
have to,
It's
that's what I'm
blah,
saying.
blah, blah.
We have to develop
So we
a
have
process.
no idea.
We have to develop
No.
an interactive process with them when we get these non-conforming lots, so
Yeah.
that we're not
Yeah.
on different pages
Yeah.
when it comes to the review.
The right hand has no idea what the left hand's doing, and I think that's
Well,
just appalling.
okay, I
for
think
the
that there was some
consumer here.
misunderstanding that happened, I don't know why or how, but I know I've got, a non-conforming lot where part of my house sticks over the setback. It was built before there was a setback, I guess, I don't know.
No, they broke the law.
They broke the law?
Yeah, they were correct.
Oh, okay. 1952, okay, or 63.
I'm kidding.
They probably were correct.
Okay.
All right, but my understanding was if I tear that wall down, I can't go back to where it was. That I would then have to conform to the setback. And this is the same situation here. They took that house down. They don't have rights to that space.
Well, actually, they do.
It turns out that if you were next to Pope John or whatever's, you could just leave it.
That was my position about 6 months ago, David.
And I agree with-
I've since been disabused of that misconception.
Well, that's why neither of us are lawyers.
All right, so what do we go
Do
from?
we have any objection to this plan?
No, it's just for informational
It's just-
purposes.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I think it points up the fact that we really have to develop some kind of joint review policy with him on these non-conforming lots, because otherwise we're going to keep hitting these things where we say tomato, they say tomato, and people are being bounced around.
And the only thing we have right
So we should
now,
have a joint hearing.
well, I think the only thing we have right now is not really, it's an informal policy of they let us know if they're reviewing. Is that true? A non-conforming
Well-
or is that not true?
I mean, what happens now, and this is where also, staff can be incorrect because, ZBA is also getting to change. There's new people and there's different opinions. So what was sort of maybe past practice sort of gets changed. So
Yeah, this
it's
is
so.
a big one, John. This is a
Oh,
huge one.
believe me, I fully understand that. And that's one of the difficulties as far as, there can be times where if we say, okay, well, if this is always going to stay the same, what happens if this house that's right here was a corner lot way over here, this was a wetland? They could say, well, actually, 3 feet doesn't matter. I totally agree that there needs to be some sort of established standard.
So that people know what they're doing. So they
Well,
can
also
walk
so
in
that they
and-
get the right advice when they're coming upstairs,
Right,
because.
it's so unfair to the applicants. I mean,
Right.
this is just an awful thing that can happen to this guy.
This guy thought he had it. We were telling him that this is what we understood that the ZBA was requiring.
The
He thought he was
The only
home and
thing,
dry.
yeah,
and
the only thing
boom.
we told him was, you may have to reduce the RGFA. The RGFA, outside of the 3 feet, that's really the only change that happened, because we at least let them know, you're over the 10%, but they didn't stick him to 10%. He is still over 10%.
Yeah, oh, really? So they allowed that.
So-
Anyway, it's pretty, not good.
Well, there's something else to put in the hopper for this spring and summer. I think we ought to really.
Yeah.
Well, it's just sort of a heads up every time there's a non-conforming lot.
Right.
End of the story.
Yeah. In some ways, this is just, if the ZBA wasn't looking at anything else and was basically just looking at the building envelope, is there any benefit to them actually going first
No.
versus us? And then I'm just trying to think as far as,
No, because that gets them into site plan review, because they can't, they're decision. If you ever sat in on a ZBA meeting, they actually get into that. They get into plannings, they get into driveway configurations, that line has been blurring for the last 5 or 6 years now. And so, what we get into then is a situation we got into on Newton Street, where the ZBA says this is the way it's going to be, and then the message to the planning board is ratify what we've done, because otherwise we're going to deny it. And that doesn't work either. I mean, that's.
So, does it make sense that it comes to us first for our advice and planning? However, advice and planning pending changes that the zoning board has the authority to make. Someone has to have that final authority, one or the other, and I think legally it's probably them.
Well, what I want to avoid is having applicants go to different boards and getting different answers.
No, I understand that, but unless the boards are gonna meet together, if both boards have to rule
I
on
think
something.
we have to meet together to adopt a policy.
Well, that's what I was suggesting, that might be what the policy is, because they do have a statutory authority.
Only with respect to the
State
legal
law.
aspects,
Right.
no, the legal aspects of the zoning parameters. The planning board has the responsibility for site plan review, which is a different kettle of fish.
Yes, it is.
And so therefore, we have two different mandates that are that in this case, because there are exceptions involved, since these are non-conforming lots, that there have to be exceptions. The overlaps are bumping into each other.
So we have to have a good understanding, in writing, memorandum of understanding between the two boards about how we do it, who comes first, and what their decision.
Well, we already have an
means
agreement on that.
in relationship.
Planning board comes first. It's written in the bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Now, then, when we might say something, if they reverse us, if they change what we said, then we've got to say, well, okay, it's your responsibility then. Otherwise, the person's going to be ping-ponging back and forth.
That's right, but no, we
That's
can't
not
say it's
fair.
your responsibility. Site plan review is not the zoning board of appeals' responsibility.
Gentlemen,
how do you
I
want to do
hate to
it?
say this,
Yeah,
It's late.
I want
but at
to,
10:30, everybody gets a little crap.
what I want to do is sit down and have a meeting with them and talk about how we can resolve this so we can avoid the ping pong. That's all I want to do.
Sounds good to me.
And,
Quick review, what's
Well-
miscellaneous business?
nothing, just.
Good.
Good.
One of the interesting will be next Tuesday's site visit at 186.
Yeah.
Their building envelope is, I think, the size of this table. I'm not serious. I'm very serious when I
Really?
say that.
Really?
You know, I mean, how then, without having some sort of understanding, we could be
Believe me,
going miles apart.
The house that they're proposing,
What, 8,000 square feet?
That's the one the historical commission.
that's the one the commission saw.
Yeah.
It is, you know, on Meadowbrook Road, it's going to be an interesting project.
Yeah.
Are you going to send us
Did
the
you all
details
hear
of
that
that?
Andy Fishman's daughter died, Dale Fishman's
I don't
husband?
think you've sent us anything.
No, I'll send out the email, and actually, I have the electronic version.
You know
of the
Dale
sidewalk
Fishman
and all
down at
that.
the high
I'll
school?
Send it all out, because I sent it
No,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
And motion that we adjourn.
yes. Second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.